wasn't very good, especially in the show.
I had watched the fattening of America through the 80s and 90s. I was a trainer in a commercial gym in the Southern California gym chain, the Gold's Gym chain. I had a robust clientele. I was as busy as I wanted to be. But I also knew that the whole world was working out wrong and eating poorly. We were, as a culture, as a nation, the victims of what seems like a conspiracy between academia, between government, and between my own industry to get it exactly and perfectly wrong. And I knew what I could do about that in terms of my clients. My clients were getting a pass from chronic disease and the ills of modern culture, modern society. But the program didn't have legs, but I didn't care because I was as busy as I could be. And then something happened when I moved up to Santa Cruz. What I was doing is I was running my CrossFit program in commercial gyms, and I was doing so as a contractor. And so I would work all through the day and then collect a check, and 20 to 30% would get taken off the top for the host gym, and my program would run in parallel to other programs. Well, what would happen in each gym, eventually, wherever I went, and it would take between 2 to 5 years, the program that was charging a premium, of which the gym was taking 30% off the top, would submarine the existing training program, and so that it was no longer possible for my host gym to support their in-house program. And I would find myself moving down the road with my clients to a new gym. Well, in Santa Cruz, I quickly ran out of gyms that I could do that in, and so I found myself for the very first time after 2 decades in the commercial environment in my own building. I had keys, I had a door to roll up, I had lights to turn on, and I had bills to pay. And the 30% that was taken off the top would now look more like, 50% coming out of my pocket to pay everything. And so the first step in being a businessman was to confront some bills I hadn't seen before. And everything went very, very well. But I noticed from the get-go that very, very simple business kinds of decisions, and I'll start with one of the more pressing that came apparent and almost right away, was whether to expand or not. Very simple notion. What happened was that we were so successful in 1,250 square feet that we were out of room. And I had clients telling me on a regular basis, hey, Greg, we're out of space. We need more room. There's too many of us. It's overcrowded. I tell my affiliates today, we have 13,000 of them, that if you've heard that twice in a week, 2 weeks in a row, you indeed are losing money. You're too small. But I started to look at what it would take to increase my space, to give ourselves more room, to give the clientele more room, the trainers more room, me more room. And the most obvious thing was it was going to double my rent. I had to go from 1 unit in the industrial space to 2. So I was going to go from 1,250 square feet to 2,500 square feet. And the doubling of the rent is obvious. But what I was curious about is to how long will it be until I'm overcrowded again, or maybe more importantly, at what point will solvency come? When does that make good business sense? And so I started making a list of the pros and cons of this expansion, trying to just look at this as fundamentally a business decision and a business decision alone. And so I had a list of the good points and the bad points, and I'd carry this around with me and looked at it. And what was really interesting is I found almost at once that when I was fresh early in the morning at 4 a.m. and excited and ready to go to the gym and just felt at my best, I'd look at the list and I'd like, yes, all the good things are going to happen and none of the cons. It's not going to be a problem. We need to do this thing. By the end of the day, after having been standing on my feet for 7 or 8 hours and talking to clients and training all day, or towards the end of the night, I'd look at the list again and a certain kind of pessimism. I wasn't so sure if things were going to work out well or not. And the horrible thing here is I'm a rational guy. I like to think of myself as pretty logical. But what I found is that the realities of this just basic business decision really would come down to mood. That when I was feeling fresh and strong, everything was going to come out great, and that felt like the logical reality, like an intelligent prediction of events. And when I was tired, maybe not so much, and that just can't be. It shouldn't be that your business decisions are mood dependent. So I shifted gears a little, and I said, well, what's the part that doesn't change? What's like, no matter how I feel, what part am I sure of in looking at this decision? And it was this, that when I asked myself, will this make the program, the service better? And the answer was a resounding yes. First of all, the people have more room. I'm going to get the mountain bikes that I wanted to have and didn't have room for. We're going to put up a cargo net. There's all kinds of things we were going to be able to do that we couldn't do in the smaller space. So pros and cons be damned. We did it for the singular reason that it was going to be good for the clients. It was going to improve the product and service. And in this build it and they will come manner, here came the business. We immediately after that got a contract with the Air Force for some work with young pararescue people, almost immediately. Now, I don't think the expansion caused that. I think it's the excellence of the service that caused the new growth. But it put me to where I have a graphic that I can show you that kind of explains how I see the world. You are here. You've seen that before? It's a map, right? X. And over here, I got dollar signs. If your notion of business is that you're out to make money, what you'll do is you'll shoot for the money and, whoops, and it's elusive. And in my language, what I say is that markets are unknowable. And in fact, overly fixed on money, this is a common scenario. Hope you can see what's happened here. The universe doesn't care that you want to be rich. Nobody gives a shit that you want money. No one recognizes your need for money, your desire for money. It really doesn't do anything for you. Markets are unknowable, but check this out. Excellence. It stands like a beacon, like a lighthouse. I tell you, it's obvious to everyone. I have a friend who's an orthodontist with a very successful practice. I go in and I watch that thing run, and I can see why he's successful. I don't know anything about orthodontia, but I was a kid that had an orthodontist, and I know the difference between my little orthodontist and what's going on in Dr. Fenderson's offices. Excellence is obvious to everyone. Chase it, pursue it. And if you get close, if you are actually able to produce an excellent product or an excellent service, what happens is that the money will come to the excellence, but often by a circuitous route, largely unpredictable.